Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it is no lie at all to say that the discussion of power creep, especially across gacha games, has been quite a hot topic recently. And what we're seeing here is Glaive Kyo, one of the most premier Kurobots in the Wuthering Waves space, has gone ahead and made his own take on power creep in Wuthering Waves, how it isn't actually there, and how that dynamic of it not being there is making other gachas look desperate. And as you can see in the very first frame of this video that I have paused on the screen, we've got an example of, well, let's just be honest, rampant power creep in the game Honkai Star Rail through the new limited 5-star character, the Herta, who, in my opinion, is absolutely busted. Destroys every single game mode in the game, even though she's obviously targeted towards AoE. And then she's destroying all the other content, right? No matter what really the situation is. And that's causing players to, you know, have a bit of an opinion on how all of the older characters on the roster that they've owned are being devalued. And it's really become like a priority if you want to have anything to do with the endgame to pick up these newest editions, and those pickups often come at the price of all of those limited pulls for your money. And that's a dynamic that a lot of players are unhappy with, and it's something we don't really see in Wuthering Waves, knowing how great older members of the roster are. And so with that, that's kind of like the viewpoint and my understanding of the situation, and I'm excited to see what Glaive Kyo has in store for us. So without further ado, let's get right on into it.
Hey, did you skip this patch's DPS unit? Oh well, good luck clearing Memory of Chaos next cycle, loser. Oh, you
Hey, but that's not a problem. That's good for the game state, right? Right, Mr. Pokey? That's good for the game state.
wanted to wait for a character you actually like instead of pulling meta picks? That's stupid and greedy. Maybe you should start pulling with your brain instead of your PP. Oh, but if you pull, enjoy doing 50% less damage in the very near future, loser. People love making fun of Genshin Impact because we can literally fly in Wuthering Waves while they are stuck gliding at 2 miles per hour.
Will the gliding be faster?
But oddly enough, nobody ever clowns Honkai Star Rail for not even having a jump button.
You wanna know who clowns Honkai Star Rail for not having a jump button? Honkai Star Rail themselves. There are actually multiple MC voice lines, or not really voice lines, but dialogue choices where they can make fun of the game's lack of jump button. So they are self-aware about its limited features, to be fair.
And trust me, that game has plenty of problems, but today we're locking.
Excuse me, one second. What was on the screen when he said plenty of
That
problems?
game has plenty
Lack of femboys, power creep, and Mr. Pokey. Alright, man.
of problems, but today we're locking in on one: power creep. There has been drama among the content creators
Look, Ma, I made it. Look, I made it. I'm on the screen. Woo!
space, or should I say a discussion happening, and it's basically starting from Mr. Pokey posting this tweet. HSR has a power creep problem only if you allow it to happen, either by greed or stupidity.
Glaive, if you have such a problem with the tweet, why'd you heart it, bro? You're supposed to just bookmark it and leave it for later so you can react.
Change my mind.
You are all basically at like 10 HP, and I am the Yasuo about to cast Haseki!
Now, if you don't know, I am not the biggest Star Rail fan. The biggest fan probably goes to Tectone. But anyways, my dislike towards the game is actually because of this exact issue. Power creep isn't something players allow to happen. It's something that happens to them. Like my uncle on summer break, power creep is literally forced onto me. So the idea that it's entirely
If true, that explains a lot of things. If true. Like that word choice.
on the player for falling victim to power creep is insane. Oh, but hold on. The Clue himself actually referenced this tweet by saying Mr. Pokey borderline made an EO take, which means he's right. He's just expressed it poorly. Mr. Pokey called y'all dogs.
Just put the fries in the bag, Tails.
Now, considering everything that has happened, it's safe to say that if EO agrees with your take, you better take a look at where you're standing, because you're on the wrong side. Just
Well, to be fair, when EO explained his takes to me, especially those regarding Wuthering Waves, there was a fair amount of stuff that I agreed with. And so I do think it is a little bit unfair to just say at a baseline that if EO agrees with something, it must be wrong. Because I'm pretty sure EO also thinks that the sky is blue. Just because he agrees with that sentiment doesn't mean it's wrong, okay?
like Mr. Pookie over here. Now, absolutely demonstrably, this guy is getting obliterated in the replies and the quote retweets because of this insane take, and deservedly so, because the moment you start blaming the players for a problem that's fundamentally baked into the game systems,
then I feel like you've lost the plot.
content creators and players alike have been pointing out the cracks in Honkai Star Rail's design for months now, and this tweet was just the spark that set off the fireworks in the new year. You've got people like
So let's get to number 3.
Box two.
Box 2.
explaining how smarter polls can only mitigate, not eliminate the impact of power creep. Now, out of everyone here, if the jumping cardboard box PNG starts making sense, there is something seriously wrong with.
I think this is a callback to the point that Box 2 is admittedly not very good at video games. And I think that's just like a common and known fact across the gacha community at this point. If you've seen him play Wuthering Waves, let's just say there's a reason why he doesn't play it that often anymore. I'll leave it at that.
With the situation, power creep isn't a problem you can avoid, it's a problem you have to endure, because when you strip it down, just like your mother last night, this isn't just a numbers game. This isn't just about damage percentages and team rotations, it's about how it feels to play the game, and that's where the real damage happens. But what if I tell you in Wuthering Waves, you don't have to worry about power creep at all? In fact, let me say this, Wuthering Waves has a power creep problem only if you allow it to happen.
You know, that's the thing, guys. That is actually true. And you want to know why? Because power creep is going to be really apparent in your game, like Wuthering Waves, if you are actively kind of bad at it. This is my sort of like official take on power creep in Wuwa. Power creep has been happening, but mainly in terms of how difficult characters are to use. A lot of the recent releases are incredibly easy to play and easy to reach their max potential with in terms of damage, while other characters require a little bit more work, a little bit more effort, a little bit more like learning the mechanics, learning the team rotations to actually get their full potential. And so if you're somebody that's not inputting the skill or the learning into the equation, something that is, you know, quite literally free, right? And it's like, oh yeah, if you play the game more, you'll get better at it. That's the idea. That's where the power creep will show up for you. And so if you are somebody insinuating that power creep is in Wuthering Waves, that is basically, in my opinion, it's a self-report from the angle of that you are probably not good at the game. That's basically what it means. If you're saying that power creep is in the game, you're basically admitting that you're not good at it. You're not taking the time to learn the rotations. You're not taking the time to actually figure out what to do. And so the character that kind of plays itself, like Carlotta kind of plays herself. You don't have to do anything to reach her max damage potential. That's like really high effort. And if you're saying she power creeps the rest of the roster, again, that is a self-report that you're not good at the game.
Let me explain. All right, let's kick things off by talking about Wuthering Waves' character design. The glue in the system that makes power creep almost irrelevant here. Here's the genius of the character balancing in Wuwa. Every character is built with specific damage type and role, and they're balanced using something called damage percent multipliers. Sounds nerdy, I know. Hey, what can I say? I'm an Eastern CC. But it's a big deal, okay? This system doesn't just slap numbers onto attacks, it categorizes every move in a character's kit and assigns a unique multiplier to each of them.
So you got like basic attack damage, you got heavy attack damage, resonance liberation damage, and resident skill damage, right? Those are kind of like the four main damage types. They've worked on a little bit more with coordinated attacks, and there are different sets, there are different bonuses that apply to each of them. And so there are a lot of different balancing levers available and a lot of different buffers available that can either, you know, amplify a character more and, you know, bring them up higher without bringing others up higher at the same rate. And that's a great balancing lever.
Basically, the devs have made it so that every character is a specialist, excelling in a particular niche. For example, take Camellia, who's basically the queen of basic attacks. For her to be power crap, Hero Games would have to release another Havoc-wielding basic attack specialist who is also stronger across the board. But let's not forget, Wuthering Waves has 6 attributes and 4 damage types. So
that's a lot of characters, guys. That's at a baseline, right? 24. That's at a baseline, 24 different types of characters. And guess what? That's only counting specialists. What if there's a character like Havoc Rover that does a very mixed damage split across their attribute, right? Havoc Rover doesn't have a specific damage type that they do a lot of, and so they work better with a general buffer like Danjin versus a more specialized one like Sanhua, where Danjin just buffs Havoc damage as a whole, and Sanhua buffs just basic attack damage. So Danjin's actually better for them. Oh, so that's another type of mix that we can have in there. So you can just add another 6. That's 30 potential DPS characters before you even have to start double dipping. And guess what, guys? 30 limited DPS characters is a lot. I'm not even sure if Genshin Impact has 30 limited DPS characters already. And it's been up, obviously, for over like 4 point something years. Does Genshin Impact even have 30 limited DPS, main DPS characters? I don't even think so. I'm going to be honest, I don't think that they even have them yet.
So there's no room for lazy overlaps. They would need to release 24 different characters before even coming close to doubling up on her niche. And considering how slow and steady Kuro is with the character releases, that's probably not gonna happen. And what better time?
And guess what, guys? You want to know how many limited sub DPS characters we have at this point in the game, 7 months in, that focus on just one attribute and one damage type? We have two. We have two of them. We have Jeja and Yinlin. 2 out of the 24 that could be specialized buffers. That's insane. Changlei's a dual DPS. She's in a different category. I'm talking about specialized buffers. Changli is not a specialized buffer. Her buff is only 10 seconds versus the 14 of those other characters, and she has a lot more on-field damage potential. Okay, she's different. She's a different category. She's a dual DPS character. And we haven't even gotten there yet, right? They have another category of character that has the 10-second buff, but more on-field damage potential. And they're supposed to be paired with each other. So that's just another thing you can put into the mix.
I'm then now to talk about the new Nightmare Echoes. A new set of Echoes Kuro released that didn't just buff a few new characters, but the entire roster, including the standard and older units. It's the kind of addition that makes every character feels like they're still part of the meta, even months down the line. Rather than funneling players towards shiny new units, Kuro ensures that the whole roster remains viable, rewarding players for their previous investments and adding a layer of synergy to team building. And this balance doesn't just stop at individual characters, it's baked into the team building too.
Guess what, guys? You wanna know what this also does? This ensures that older members of the roster, they're still worth pulling. Because guess what? Who do you think is pulling Sela? Who do you think is pulling Silverwolf? Who do you think is pulling Blade and Jingliu in 2025? Nobody. But guess what? Because these Nightmare Echoes have come in and basically buffed the latter end of the roster and made them comparable, right, to characters like Carlotta, the newest DPSs that are releasing, characters like Jinxie, who had their own customized echoes on launch that made them really strong just because of how smooth their echoes were to use. Well, guess what? You have a reason to pull Jian, a reason to pull Zhang Liao, a reason to pull Changli. And it's just, nobody really talks about this. They're adding value in the older banners, and they're not making the newer characters so obnoxiously powerful. They are easier to play. They're not so obnoxiously powerful that it feels like there's no point in pulling the older members of the roster. And so now all those rerun banners don't feel like an absolute waste. And most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, a complete fucking bait. Because guess what? If you pull Silverwolf in the latter half of the 3.0 banners, they have the 8-character banner, right? Across the entirety of 3.0. Silverwolf is going to be in the latter half, the second half banner. If you pull that character, you will essentially just brick your account. The devs for Honkai Star Rail have put in the opportunity for a new player to simply brick their account. It's just a complete waste of your pulls. And they put that trap in the game and allow newer or less educated players to essentially brick their account. That's ridiculous. I can't imagine why we're not talking about that more. The fact that there's literally a trap by the devs being put into the game to extract value out of a player in exchange for nothing.
Every stat and every ability feels deliberately designed to play off each other, encouraging creative, unorthodox team comps that still work. Do you want to experiment with builds? Go wild. You're not punished for trying new combos because the balance system makes everyone feel like they have a purpose.
Guess what? Tao Chi, one of the widely considered worst characters in the game, Tao Chi, a resident skill buffer who has a slower rotation time, actually usable. Actually fairly usable with Carlotta. And now she's gained new meta relevance. You obviously need a different build on Carlotta with more ER to make use of it, but she's now usable. After a new character releases, an older member of the roster got better. One that really saw no use at all.
Wuthering Waves doesn't just design characters, they future-proof them with a system that rewards synergy, creativity, and specialization. Now let's contrast this with Genshin Impact, where all it takes to overshadow an existing Pyro DPS is releasing another Pyro DPS with better scaling or—
Guess what, guys? It's happened about 3 times. You had Diluc, Hu Tao, Arlecchino, and now you have Mavuika, who has the highest damage in the game. Nice. Nice. I'm glad we did it 4 times, guys. Oh, yeah. Obviously, the characters aren't ridiculously powerful compared to each other. Each one is stronger than the last. And the thing is, the Abyss, Spiral Abyss, or at least from what I've experienced up until like version 5.0, it hasn't scaled with that increase in damage either, and it's still completable with Diluc. It's still completable with Hu Tao, still completable with Arlecchino, despite the fact that the newest character is doing more damage than the other previous 4. The difficulty isn't scaling up rapidly, again from my experience, to the point where those previous iterations iterations of the fire DPS are unusable. Let's continue.
Their pyro DPS with better scaling or a flashier kit. It's one size fits all, and it reduces characters to numbers. No niche, no specialization. The old characters become bench warmers.
Well, whoa, Glaive. There's something I want to point out here. There are characters like Toma in Genshin that at C6 are able to buff things like normal attacks, and there are specific characters like Ryodzli, for example, who have built-in normal attack buffs into their kit. And so the damage typing is actually in there, but it is not close to as fleshed out as Wuthering Waves, and it does seem like they've kind of stopped it too. And so the benefits and the buffs, the system is like 10-15% of what's actually in WoW, but it is there in Genshin.
Not because they lack potential, but because the design philosophy encourages obsolescence. Meanwhile, in Wuthering Waves, it's an entirely different game. It keeps every character unique and viable, preventing overlap and ensuring they hold their value in diverse team comps. This is the difference between designing for lasting value and creating for short-term turnover. In Wuthering Waves, characters aren't just units to replace, they are tools to expand your playstyle, synergize with others, and remain relevant for months and even years to come. They don't ask, do you have their latest 5-star, but rather, can you adapt to the challenge? Now, content scaling is one of the biggest reasons why Wuthering Waves stands out in the gacha space. Instead of forcing you to pull for some must-have characters to clear endgame content, Wuthering Waves puts the focus on skill, strategy, and timing. This means you're not just sitting there wondering if your roster is good enough, you're asking yourself if you are good enough. Whenever Kuro drops a new enemy or boss, they don't slap on some ridiculous requirements like bring this specific 5-star or go cry in a corner like
True.
Honkai Star Rail does. No siree. Instead, these enemies are built to challenge your game knowledge, your ability to dodge attacks, time your parries, learn rotation, and manage your team efficiently. It's not just about raw damage numbers, it's about game knowledge. For example, breaking the stagger bar before the fallacy of no return goes sicko mode, or manage.
Okay, he's literally stole that line from one of my videos. 1000%. Because why are you gonna call... Okay, he literally stole that from me. 1000%. We can factually confirm that.
Elements don't matter. Attack style doesn't really matter.
Look, we're just holding on to our f***ing intro skill with the fallacy about to go sicko mode. We're just chilling.
Managing AoE attacks that punish you if you're not paying attention. The point is, every encounter is a test of your understanding of the game systems, not a test of whether you've swiped your credit card or for the latest OP unit. Now,
and we prove that, right? By having shitty rotations on Zhongli Yao and Yinlin team, not maximum investment, S0, S1, and then we're clearing electro-resistant crownless. And believe me, guys, when I got better at the rotations, in the team, I was clearing the electro-resistant crownless with 15 seconds left. With 15 to 20 seconds left on the 2-minute timer for 3 stars. With Zhang Liao and Yinlin. That is the thing. They haven't scaled up the difficulty to such a ridiculous degree where it is impossible, even with the disadvantaged team. And that's something that a lot of people don't really recognize about Wuthering Waves and that new Havoc and electro-resistant middle tower that's in the game.
Now let's contrast that with Honkai Star Rail. In HSR, the approach to endgame content can feel less creative. They often resort to inflating the enemy HP to astronomical levels, which makes fights drag on forever unless you have the latest, shiniest 5-star units. Some fights are so blatantly tuned around specific characters that you're left feeling like you're solving a puzzle with missing pieces if you didn't pull them. And of course, that might work in a turn-based system like HSR's, where your options are more limited, but it highlights just how different Wuthering Waves is. Kuro doesn't need to rely on cheap tricks like bloated stats to keep you engaged. The kicker is that this design philosophy helps Wuthering Waves dodge the power creep trap entirely by focusing on skill-based progression and making every enemy defeatable with a well-thought-out strategy. They ensure that old characters never lose their value. You don't have to keep chasing the meta, you just gotta keep improving your game. Wuthering Waves says get good, not get the new character. It's a game that rewards strategy, timing, and knowledge while giving you the chance to flex your skills with your favorite characters. No inflated HP bars, no mandatory pulls, just
Guys, there are a lot of people saying that this recent TOA has had HP inflation. There's a lot of people on Reddit, a lot of people on Discord saying that this recent TOA has had HP inflation. It has less HP than previous iterations of the TOA. Previous resets of the TOA have had more HP than the current one. We're literally just talking out of our asshole and trying to find problems, or literally just manufacture problems with the game mode when we don't actually know what the actual statistics are. While in Honkai Star Rail and Genshin Impact, it is demonstrably proven from the data that the HP inflation is actually there. And in Wuthering Waves, the HP literally went down.
Just pure, unfiltered gaming satisfaction. Unless if you suck like Captain Cabinets.
True and based.
Now let's talk about the gacha rates and the resources, because Wuthering Waves has cracked the code on making players feel blessed instead of stressed. You know how in most gacha games, pulling for a limited character or weapon feels like you're sitting in a cuck chair in the corner of the hotel room? Yeah, well, Kuro Games said, alright.
Oh, so why was Tectone in the cuck chair? Do that again? Sounds about right.
Corner of the hotel room. Yeah, well, Kuro Games said, alright, hold my gamer subs. Now, this is the part where the content creators reacting to this video would casually plug their gamer subs code. First off, the weapon banner. Let me tell you, it's an absolute W. Why? Because it's guaranteed. If you hit that 5-star pity on the weapon banner, you are walking away with the featured weapon. Not of that, oops, here's Chapart's light cone. Now,
the fact that you can lose a 75-25 is the most disgusting element of gacha gaming for sure. It feels worse than losing a 50-50. Because you know you had 50% increased odds to win, and the fact that you're not winning the 70-25 and actively losing it is one of the worst feelings in the game. And it's like, it's just such a feel bad moment for the player that it might as well just be 50-50 or just be 100. Like, I don't understand why you have to like let the player know that they like lost really bad.
Now compare that to other games where the weapon banner is a bottomless pit of despair, and you'll see why Wuthering Waves feels like a breath of fresh air. I mean, we've all seen what happens to that bald man while he's pulling for the homeless shovel, and we all know how that went.
Hold up. Please. Fuck my ass, dude!
Now let's hit.
What a throwback. What a throwback. That is some absolute cinema right there. That is going to be recorded in the annals, not annals, the annals of gacha game history.
The character banners, sure, they use the classic 50-50 mechanic, but here's the twist. You're guaranteed a 5-star every patch. That's amazing. Plus, the frequent reruns means that skipping a banner isn't the end of the world. Didn't snack Carlotta or Rachia this time? Chill. Kuro's got your back, and they'll be back sooner than you think. Way sooner than your dad ever did. And can we talk about how Kuro is like the
That was suspiciously specific, Glaive, buddy.
generosity goat of gacha devs? Events in Wuthering Waves are absolute gold mines. Free pulls,
True.
upgrade materials, a whole dang 5-star given
True,
for
also
fun.
true.
Yeah, back in 1.2, if you've forgotten, they literally handed out a limited 5-star character, and he is still top tier meta.
True.
That's not just good, that is absolutely.
What happened to Dr. Ratio, ladies and gentlemen? Well, they gave out Dr. Ratio for free, and then they released Fei Xiao a couple of months later. Boom! He's out. Boom! Just get him out of here. Get him the fuck out of here. Get him out. Hey, Fei Xiao, welcome to the club, Fei Xiao. Fuck you, Dr. Ratio.
Insane. But it's not just what they give, it's about how easy it is to build your characters. The game showers you with resources, upgrade materials, leveling items, and even gacha currency through events and daily.
This was nuts. I don't know if those were the actual numbers, but this was actually nuts. This was like in like the fucking third month of the game, like the second month of the game. This was insane. This was in version 1.1.
Dailies. Unless you're min-maxing crit rolls, you are never stuck in that classic gacha grind where you're begging for scraps just to ascend your team.
Guys, don't you wish 3.0 was better? If Honkai Star Rail 3.0 didn't suck balls, Kuro Games probably would have gave us more free rewards. But because 3.0 and 1.4 and like and Genshin 5.3 were so fucking awful, not really ZZZ 1.4, sorry about that. Just because like Genshin 5.3 and like HSR 3.0 were so fucking awful that like there was no need to like actually provide more free rewards, we're not getting them. Like this is the thing. If Hoyo made better games and better patches, we would have gotten more rewards. And so we should be mad at Hoyoverse, even as Wuthering Waves players, for making their games and patches shit. We should be mad at them because if they made them better, we would have gotten more free shit. Because guess what? Those 30 pulls that we just saw were because of ZZZ's launch. And yeah, if 3.0 and 5.3 were better, we would have gotten more stuff.
And because
Unfortunate.
characters aren't power crept into oblivion, everything you invested into those rosters stays valuable for the long haul. Now let's give a bombastic side eye for the competition for a second. Take Honkai.
Now we've only got Ananta left. Ananta launches? Hey, boys, we're getting like 40 pulls. We're gonna get like 30 or 40 pulls once Ananta launches. We just gotta hope Ananta is actually good.
Star Rail, for example. Over there, you're not even guaranteed to get a single 5-star per patch if your luck is bad.
Hey, just make sure you pull the right character, guys. If you don't want power creep to ruin your fucking gameplay experience, make sure you pull on the right banner, and B, this is the really, really, really important part. This one takes the most skill. B, make sure you don't lose the 50-50. If you do, go fuck yourself.
By contrast, Wuthering Waves makes you feel like you're actually rewarded for your time and effort, and that's a massive W for player satisfaction. Whether you're a free-to-play grinder or someone who loves to spend a little or a lot, Wuthering Waves gives you the tools to thrive. The gacha rates are forgiving, the resources are abundant, and the devs actually seem to care about making you feel like you're winning. It's not just about pulling characters, it's about building them, playing them, and knowing that your investment is here to stay. Wuthering Waves doesn't feel like it's just a gacha game, it's a gacha dream. Generous events, guaranteed rewards, and devs who don't gatekeep fun. What more could you ask for? And I think this isn't just some random stroke.
We have flight, ladies and gentlemen. And remember, that flight isn't locked behind a limited character. They could have, but they didn't.
Luck. It's a direct result of Kuro's unparalleled communication and responsiveness. Again, Wuthering Waves isn't just a gacha game, it's a gacha dream. From balanced character designs to player-first dev communication, this game shows that you don't need to inflate numbers or gatekeep content to stay relevant. While other games are out here handing you calculators to figure out which new unit can survive the HP Bloat Olympics, Wuthering Waves proves that strategy,
HP Bloat Olympics is insane.
skill, and generosity can lead the charge unless you're Captain Cabinets.
All right, so my final thoughts on this video are awesome stuff, Glaive. I think you spat facts about basically everything in regards to Wuwa's different balancing systems, the obvious advantages it has over other games, the massive problems that other games have and are continuing to perpetuate moving forward into the future. The only thing I think you had a bit of a miss on was not being entirely correct about Genshin Impact. And I don't know how long it's been since you played that game, or even if you played that game, because Genshin does have, quite frankly, a lot of the systems that are in Wuthering Waves when it comes to damage typing and like the balancing levers that are in there. It's just they aren't fully fleshed out to the degree of Wuwa. And so I can imagine where it was simple to find, you know, the kind of like lack of it, because there's not a lot of it, but it is there. But overall, awesome vid, awesome points, agreed with, you know, again, basically everything in there, and you're spot on when it comes to Wuthering Waves. Just stop stealing my arguments and terminology, bro. Calling the fallacy sicko mode is mine. All right, but with that, let me know what you all think. Peace out.